Let me ask you about the decision to do this. Given what you've been through over the past couple of years, why speak now on your own terms?
Honestly, I just wasn't planning to, and I didn't want to. I've led an entirely anonymous life and hoped to return to one. And when the president, finally did that vile sort of simulated sex act in a, rally in Minneapolis, I just finally had to accept it's not getting better. And being quiet isn't making this go away. And it wasn't working for me anymore.
I love you, Peter. I love you too, Lisa. Lisa, I love you. Lisa. Oh, God, I love you, Lisa.
So this is you and Peter Strzok texting about the prospect that President Trump is going to be elected, the unlikely prospect.
Right. I mean, it's an analogy. First of all, it's not my text, so I'm sort of interpreting what I believe he meant back 3 years ago. But we're using an analogy. We're talking about whether or not we should take certain investigative steps or not based on the likelihood that he's going to be president or not, right? You have to keep in mind, if President Trump doesn't become president, the national security risk, if there is somebody in his campaign associated with Russia, plummets. You're not so worried about what Russia's doing vis-a-vis a member of his campaign if he's not president, because you're not going to have access to classified information. You're not going to have access to sources and methods in our national security apparatus. So the insurance policy was an analogy. It's like an insurance policy when you're 40. You don't expect to die when you're 40, yet you still have an insurance policy.
So don't just hope that he's not going to be elected and therefore not press forward with the investigation hoping, but rather press forward with the investigation just in case he does get in there.
Exactly.
If for any reason she loses, even though she's a stone-cold corrupt person, if for any reason she loses, Peter, we've got to have an insurance policy. We have to do it. Because we're going to go, and that's what's been happening for the last 2.5 years, okay?
What about the text message that, in which you and Strzok were talking about your sort of fear that Trump would be elected, and he said, no, we won't let it happen?
I mean, by we, he's talking about the collective we, like-minded, thoughtful, sensible people who were not going to vote this person into office. Obviously, in retrospect, do I wish he hadn't sent it? Yes. It's been mutilated to death, and it's been used to bludgeon an institution I love, and it's meant that I've disappointed countless people. But this is a snapshot in time, carrying on a conversation that had happened earlier in the day that reflected a broad sense of he's not going to be president. We, the democratic people of this country, are not going to let it happen.
Months earlier, Peter Strzok. Remember, he and his lover, Lisa Page. What a group. She's going to win. 10 million to 1. She's going to win. I'm telling you, Peter. I'm telling you, Peter, she's going to win. Peter, oh, I love you so much.
Can you talk about what it was like and sort of how you found out and what your thought process was when you learned that these text messages that had been investigated by the Inspector General had not just made their way into public consumption, but had actually been given to reporters by the Justice Department who told reporters that they shouldn't source them to the Justice Department and explain where they got them. But it was, in fact, the DOJ who gave them out.
That's correct.
Tell me how that felt.
I mean, it's really one of the more painful aspects of this entire 2 years. I mean, the president's attacks and assaults are one thing, but this is my institution. This is my Justice Department betraying us. And, there's an element of, at least there's a claim that, well, this is congressional oversight and we had to do it. I have been a part of both of these institutions for a long time, and I know what it looks like when when the department is trying to protect people and protect information, and I know what it looks like when they're not. There were plenty of ways to fulfill their congressionally mandated oversight responsibility without politicizing our messages, without shoveling them out in the way that they did.
Lisa, I love you. Now, the do-nothing Democrat con artists and scammers are getting desperate. 13 months, they got to move fast because they're not beating us at the polls, and they know it, despite the phony polls that you see all the time.